Welcome to the Ignition News. We love to have you here, but remember to follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Click that like button, that subscribe button, and leave a comment below. It's going to be a great show. Welcome to the Ignition News. Let's get busy with the truth. And there we go. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Ignition News. It is March 17th. Apologies for the rough start today. It's been a morning full of technical glitches, but nonetheless, let's go ahead and get into it. It is March 17th. You are watching live on the Ignition News. Let's find out about some things that happened today in history. Of course, it is St. Patrick's Day. This is widely celebrated as a cultural and religious holiday. They pour green water into rivers and all that shit. It's rooted in the 5th century, involving Patrick being a victim of human trafficking. He was taken as a slave to Ireland before returning to challenge the existing power structure of the era. What an interesting correlation. It's ongoing. Sunshine Week, which is always fun. Day 3 of the National Initiative focused on open government and the public's right to access federal, state, and local records. It is Doctor-Patient Trust Day, which is kind of interesting. It's also World Social Work Day, specifically focused in 2026 on empowering communities to promote social justice through change. In 1931, gambling was legalized in Nevada. Without that, there would be no Ignition News. I wouldn't be here live streaming on all of our favorite platforms. And in 1905, Einstein published his first paper outlining quantum theory. The first birth control clinic was opened in London today in 1921. And in 1992, on today, the apartheid referendum was ended in South Africa. 69% of white South African voters backed reforms to dismantle the apartheid system. Awesome. If you can hear the sound in the background, that is the sound of the Switch, which should be turned down, or the 3D headset that should be turned down. That's awesome. There we go. Happy birthday to Kurt Russell. Gary Sinise was also born today. And let's get into the show. We have a lot to talk about. First, let me just start out with a little reflection on where we are at just as a society. So a couple of days ago, our television completely broke. Tried to repair it, take the back off the television, completely not doable. Our poor television is something like, I want to say 10 years old, maybe 15 years old, wildly old nonetheless. And so we realized we had to go get a new TV. So we did all the television shopping, all of that sort of stuff. And the thing that I'm admittedly not a television person. I know some people love their televisions. I know they get really excited about all of the technology, all that sort of stuff. But we researched all the things one researches when looking into televisions. And we were able to find a TV that approximately met our needs as a family. When I tell you that we are in the late stages of capitalism, nothing could be more apparent than when you are shopping for a television. Absolutely nothing. In addition to the fact that there are no dumb TVs anymore. There just are no dumb TVs. Every television has some kind of AI or some kind of streaming service that is monitoring everything you do, listening to what you do, observing, recording, categorizing your behaviors. And the last 2 days, I've noticed, in spite of all the fucking settings that one can turn off, when you watch something, oh, magically, here's a link to buy something on Amazon. Amazing. Or, oh, here's a link to buy this product. And it's not just the obtuseness of the ads anymore. It's not just that everything has to have a fucking advertisement, which I feel like we've gotten to that point. But now, right on your TV, you can't even watch anything without, oh, click the link to buy this thing on Amazon. And when I tell you, I feel a little bit like I'm an octogenarian with my technology. I assure you, I have turned off every fucking setting that can be turned off. But this is what they do to us. This is how they take us over. They inundate us. And I was reminded of my favorite movie, which was from a bygone era now, it seems like, WALL-E. And I remember poor WALL-E left on the planet to clean up the remnants of the By and Large Corporation while the human beings turned into gelatinous blobs floating around on their hover scooters in outer space, cruise ships in outer space, waiting for things to get better, not realizing that it was our responsibility to make things better after all. We are halfway there. Right now, my son is loudly watching some 3D thing on his little headset like we're in the movie WALL-E. It's just very dystopian while the television plays advertisements. This is madness. It's absolute madness. And it's without doubt, without question, we are in the latter stages. We are in the latter stages of late stage capitalism. It's really disturbing to watch when you watch it happening. The internet is not working. All kinds of fucking problems this morning. I love this show today. Welcome. It's March 17th. Let's get into the top stories. There are a lot of stories to talk about today. But first, let's kick back about a year ago when Elon Musk and Doge were running through the federal government, dismantling, destroying everything. 6 months before we started bombing Iran, the Trump administration fired oil and gas experts at the State Department. They absolutely gutted that department. So the very people that might, for example, caution the president and say, hey, if you take military action in Iran, what might happen is they might close off the Straits of Hormuz and gas prices might absolutely skyrocket. Oh, and they might start attacking not just our critical infrastructure, but their own critical infrastructure. And by the way, we would have to, say, attack their critical infrastructure to make any meaningful economic input. Oh, but by the way, they've been preparing for this for the last 50 years, so it's really not going to affect them that much. Oh, by the way, Russia and China are more than happy to purchase their oil, more than happy to provide them with critical infrastructure, while they lob their cheap bombs, drones, and missiles at our Arab allies. Oh, by the way, Mr. President, just in case you might want to be made aware of this, sorry, you're fired. 9 former experts at the State Department, the Treasury, the Energy Department, the National Security Council all told reporters the same thing. The administration's lack of preparation for the crisis is now on full display. And part of that is because in order to save money at the federal government, we fired some of the people responsible for this. We literally gutted the people who could have saved you. I mean, how much more are you spending at the gas tank, by the way? I mean, if you're smart, you have an electric car. But boy, is that looking like a smart move right now. But just think about it. I mean, 20 gallons of gas in Las Vegas now is $2 more per gallon where I am since this conflict started. Average fuel tank is about 20 gallons. So you're putting $40 more into your gas tank every single time you fill up the tank to save money, right? $2,000 a year. So the tariffs cost us $3,000. Now gas, at least now, costs us an extra $2,400 per year. Every little thing. Oh, and by the way, click on this ad while you're watching Malcolm in the Middle. Jesus Christ. Welcome, everybody, to the Ignition News. It's a spicy show today. And if you're feeling a little bit tired of all this shit, you're not the only one. Our next story, by the way, thank you for following us on all of your favorite podcast platforms. I do need to take a little bit of a break to ask you to please go ahead and follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcast or YouTube. We live in a censored media environment that is increasingly restrictive. If you don't believe me, I would ask you the following question. What information, what visual proof do you have of anything that is happening in the Gulf states right now? What actual, tactical, verifiable information that's not AI do you actually have access to right now? Do you know what's happening in Tel Aviv? Have you seen Tel Aviv getting pounded by Iranian missiles? Have you seen United States military bases and our billion-dollar radar infrastructure being attacked by $30,000 drones, $20,000 drones? Have you seen the billion-dollar radar blown up by a $20,000 drone? Have you seen, I mean, I know you've seen the fiery ships in the Straits of Hormuz. Have you seen the lines and lines and lines of ships waiting to try to pass through the straits? On both sides, by the way. Have you seen or heard testimony of people living in these countries that wasn't bought for or censored? Dubai has spent, you know what's interesting? 2 years ago, these people from Dubai were really trying to sell me a house in Dubai. It was pretty interesting. Somehow they got my information and so I entertained this conversation just briefly. And they were just really, oh no, and of course my first and primary concern is like, is it safe there? Because I mean, it's okay. This is the second time this has happened. Who's calling me during the show? Every force of nature is trying to stop the show from happening today. When I tell you every force of nature is trying to stop this show from happening, this should be a lesson in resilience for you. If I can do it, you can do it too. My point being, see, that was my Fed right there, trying to interrupt the show when I'm talking about censorship. Anyways, follow the show on your favorite podcast platform. If you're tired of it, If you're tired of the shit, you're not the only one. Joe Kent, the director of National Counterterrorism Center, quit. He did not go quietly, by the way. He posted an open letter on social media and used it to call out what he says was the truth about the war. This is an act of courage. Kent is not a bureaucrat. He's not some career low-level staffer. He's a decorated U.S. Special Forces and CIA veteran who deployed 11 times overseas, including Iraq. He lost his wife, who was a Navy cryptologic technician, Shannon Kent, in a suicide bombing in Syria in 2019. This is a man who knows what the fuck is up in the Middle East. He ran for Congress twice as a Trump-aligned candidate, by the way. So this is a Trumpy candidate who quit. He was narrowly confined to his post early this week. And he reported directly to Tulsi Gabbard. And today, this man, this decorated veteran, this congressional candidate, this Trump-aligned politician, this career official who gave up decades of his life and indeed his wife to what's actually happening in the Middle East, he quit. He said in an open letter that this war is a lie. He said that high-ranking Israeli officials and influential American journalists built an echo chamber that was used to deceive the president into believing Iran was an imminent threat. A high-level government official has just said in an open letter that the president of America has been deceived into going to war. The man whose entire job was to assess terrorist threats to the United States, who has every access to every piece of intelligence that it needs about Iran, just said the president was put into an information honeypot to go to war, and it's costing us billions of dollars. I don't know how you get more clear than that. I don't know how you get more imminent. You've got a MAGA congressional candidate, national security advisor, who lost his wife to conflict in the Middle East, saying the president was information honeypotted into going to war. That actually happened. In any other timeline, everything would go to a stop. Everything would come to a grinding halt. Congress would be having hearings. Everything would be stopped. But here we are. Watch your ad on Amazon TV. Be sure to buy that lotion. It's on sale. Let's talk about what could happen in this war. Experts are warning that the current plan risks a catastrophic miscalculation. Here's the problem. The transit lane through the Straits of Hormuz runs 3 to 4 miles from the Iranian shoreline. Iran has drone launchers and missile launchers positioned all along the coast of the Straits. A naval expert at the Hudson Institute put it plainly: once a launcher activates, you have a couple of minutes before the missiles are on top of you. That is the window, a few minutes. They're trying to convince people to pass through the straits. And even with warships' presence, success is not guaranteed. Drones can fly low and they can fly slow. The Iranians purportedly have small, almost invisible boats. These warships of ours, these billion-dollar warships, the largest in the world, does it make sense to you to put these billion-dollar warships, multiple billion-dollar warships, through the Straits of Hormuz to protect private shipping interests, to become sitting ducks to Iranian boats or Iranian drones? Your brothers, your sisters? What would happen if Iran struck a United States aircraft carrier protecting the Straits? It would be an international military catastrophe. Because those warships are designed to project our strength globally. When shit goes down, we send a battleship, right? That's how this works. If Iran were successful in attacking a United States airship, battleship, the United States would have to respond with absolute devastation, because without doing that, we would risk completely losing any credibility that we have of being any kind of quote-unquote global superpower. We would have to respond with overwhelming military force, the likes of which would dwarf anything that you've ever seen. But the ship would still be damaged or gone. Our brothers and sisters in the military would still be injured or killed. And even with an overwhelming demonstration of military force, any calculation of our power as a global superpower would be permanently destroyed. The technology that we spend trillions of dollars for, $1 trillion a year, will have proved to be ineffective against small machinery, drones, boats. We will have disproven all of the calculus of the American military muscle over the last 30 years. All of this is to say is there is no good way out of this. We cannot protect ships passing through this 6-mile channel. We can't do it. It's not possible. We're not going to do it. The reason we're not going to do it is no one is coming to our aid. None of our allies have decided to support us. We're not going there, they said. We're not doing it. The president is screaming on social media at foreign allies. But ask yourself, if you were a citizen of the United Kingdom or if you were a citizen of any one of our allies, Canada, France, Germany, they all risk the same thing, being further embroiled into a global military conflict, having their critical infrastructure attacked, retaliations, all these things. It is on pins and needles right now, and the tip either way is a global economic and military catastrophe. And now we know that the president was put into this war with an information honeypot. Quite literally, this is an octogenarian. This is an 80-year-old man who apparently doesn't know the difference between artificial intelligence, reality, the news, not the news. He's apparently been boxed into bad information. What information do you think it would take for the president to say, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't be there. We should leave. We should stop this. Apparently, he's surrounded by people who are giving him exactly the kind of information necessary to be at war. Welcome to the Ignition News, everyone. I feel like this is a good time to remind you to please follow us on your favorite podcast platform, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Substack, Spotify, all those places. It's good to have you on the show today. I want to talk about our next story, our final story, and it brings it closer to home. All of this chaos has real-world consequences and effects. So let's go to Kansas. We haven't covered this story yet. This is far from any military theater, but it is significant because in Kansas has revoked the driver's license of approximately 1,700 transgender residents. Not because they had any kind of traffic violation or because they were any kind of safety issue, not because of an accident or tickets, anything like this, but specifically and exclusively because they are transgender. Kansas is one of 5 states that now prohibits trans people from changing their gender marker on their licenses, but Kansas went actually one step further than any other state. It passed a law that retroactively cancels licenses that were already legally updated. Licenses that had been valid under rules put in place since 2007, with no grace period and no warning. Hundreds of Kansans, received official letters from the Department of Revenue saying their licenses were invalid immediately and that they may be subjected to additional penalties if they continue to drive. The letter instructs them to surrender the current license and receive a new one reflecting their birth sex. This also invalidated updated birth certificates. So every time one of these people has to apply for a job or show ID at a bank, or if they get pulled over, or if they have to present credentials everywhere, they are now legally required to announce to the world that they are transgender, whether they wanted to do this or not. There's a lot of things that we could say about this, but we've been very consistent here. The United States is engaged in a military conflict, a war in Iran. We conducted a war in Venezuela, and now we are choking off Cuba, destroying their power grid, in an economic war of disinformation. And now in the United States, we are officially at war as a government with some of the most vulnerable people. The United States government is at war with trans individuals. And now almost 2,000 people in Kansas are essentially left hanging without an identification. They're having to go into a government building and make themselves vulnerable to resolve this in the way that the state says that they have to resolve it. These are not people that are asking for special privileges. These are people that are asking for basic things in life, to drive vehicles, to go to work, to do Uber, to go get groceries. And for some reason, this continued cascade of shit has allowed us to continue to dehumanize our neighbors, to dehumanize people who are not asking to be identified, to dehumanize people who are not asking for special privileges, to dehumanize people who are just trying to live every single day. I have to be honest with you. I don't think about this thing when I see other people. I don't see and look at other people driving their cars and say to myself, I wonder I wonder what gender are they? I don't think about these things. I am not sickly obsessed with the gender of random strangers. I'm not perversely worried about it. It's sick. It's an obsession. These people have an obsession with, I guess, genitalia of strangers. And they're saying we need to worry about transgender people. You people are obsessed with other people's genitals. Apparently, you think of nothing else. What is wrong with you? I could go an entire year and not worry about what's in a stranger's pants. Like it actually happens. Like I don't go out in public at the grocery store and wonder what is in someone's pants. This is not a conversation that even remotely crosses my mind. I can't even fathom it. But there are people who apparently, when they wake up in the morning, the first thing they think of is, I've got to find every fucking trans person. What do you want from this? What is your end goal? Why are you obsessed with whether someone has a penis or a vagina if they're playing tennis? What is wrong with your head? What sickness and moral depravity do you have that is what you think you should be worrying about? There are so many more problems. There are so many things happening. There are so many conflicts, economic, societal. You have 1,700 people just trying to live their lives. And you are perversely obsessed with it. And we need to go on the offense of how we talk about these people, because one thing we have done that has let the trans individuals in our communities down is we have backed away from the conversation because somehow we thought it was a losing conversation. But guess what? Eventually, when they're done coming for the trans people, then they're going to come for the gay people or the bisexual people or the people who go and do performative drag shows, or they're going to come for the asexual people, or they're going to come for gay marriage. You don't think that is going to happen if they are successful? The Heritage Foundation just released a huge report. The subject of their report was basically, how do you get women out of the workplace? And let me tell you, the shortest path is you start with the trans people. So if you are a woman who has a job that you really like and a bank account and a checking account, and you have a PhD, you're a scientist, and you sit on the sidelines and you say, that's really tough. I support trans people, but this isn't an issue that I feel comfortable talking about, or it doesn't affect me right now. It's going to affect you. It's going to come for you. And the thing that what is happening with this assault on trans people should warn you about, is they're already making these decisions for you. They're deciding that it is now your responsibility to prove if you are or are not the sex you were born at birth. So what else do you think they're going to do? It will come for all of us. How do these things connect? You have an administration that fired its own experts in the very subject that we needed before it was going to war. A top counterintelligence official now says openly that this war was launched on a lie. A demand that allies risk their military warships is flailing. If it goes through, could result in mass casualties. And at home, a state government is stripping 1,700 people of their own legal identity because they exist. The thread here is power. Who has power? Who loses power, and who bears the cost when those in power get it wrong. And the lesson here is to stop giving inches, to stop giving little centimeters. Unfortunately, this has happened to us because we have kept giving inches or failing in little centimeters. We've been giving inches to the fascists instead of rooting down in concrete and saying, I will not move. And now we're seeing what happens. So when they come for you, or they come for your neighbor, or they come and they say, show me your papers, You have to refuse to move. You have to say, no, you're not going to strip rights away from trans people. And if we do, we're going to organize. We're going to protect them. We're going to ensure that these people who voted for this never hold political office again. You have to prepare to protect and elect in the midterms. Do you know when your midterms are? Do you know when the primaries for your midterms are? Are you participating in that vociferously, with anger, with passion? We're going to find out today. There's a primary in Chicago, Kat Abou-Ghazaleh. If she wins, it will be a signal. If she wins, it will be the direct signal of people like you saying we can beat the system. We can show up when they say we're going to lose. We can organize, we can collect, and we can push back. It's an important one to watch tonight. And even if Kat Abou-Ghazaleh does not win, how close she came to victory will be an important tell for us to understand how close to actual resistance, to actual revolution we are. I try to avoid endorsements of political candidates in all of my forums because I think it's unfair. But I think you should watch what happens today in Chicago, because it is going to be a tell. It's going to be a signal of where we actually are as a country. Power. Who has it, who uses it, and who loses it. It is March 17th, everyone. It was a rocky show. There was every indication today that we should not have done the show. Technical errors, dogs barking, televisions clicking advertisements, my Fed interrupting the show by calling me again. Little suspicious. But if I can bear the rocky grid, if I can bite down the rocks, if I can keep going, you can keep going too. And that's the show, everybody. Whew. This has been today's episode of The Ignition News. Please consider following us on all of your favorite podcast platforms, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, or Substack. We're here to deliver to you unfiltered, uncensored news. Let's get busy with the truth on The Ignition News.